I'm here at the Tech Museum of Innovation at their latest exhibit, Islamic Science Rediscovered. And it's a fascinating view about how Islamic scholars and scientists have actually influenced the way we live today. Many of us have forgotten about this or have never known it to begin with, but in this exhibit you can see the wonderful contributions that Islamic science has made toward our life right now. So join me.
Timelines at the beginning of this exhibition inform the visitor about what he's about to see. Muslim explorers traveled as far as Central Africa and China. They were skilled at navigation and were excellent map makers. Over 1,000 years ago, Abbas ibn Farnas launched himself into the air on a glider and flew across the Spanish countryside. Islamic scholars invented algebra and contributed to trigonometry and geometry, architecture, art, and optics. Starting with the time of Muhammad, the spread of knowledge is traced through the travels of Islamic explorers, including Ibn Battuta. Early Muslims studied the skies and invented the astrolabe. They made contributions in surgery, discovered the circulatory system, made surgical tools, and used catgut to close surgical wounds. They invented water clocks, segmented gears, the crankshaft, and the float valve. Modern optics can be traced to the research of Muslim scholars, such as Ibn al-Haytham, and the invention of the pinhole camera.
Set out alone, having neither fellow traveller in whose companionship I might find cheer, nor caravan whose party I might join, but swayed by an impulse within me, and a desire long cherished to visit those illustrious sanctuaries. Late at night in the palace of the Sultan of Morocco, the royal scribe Ibn Juzay sat spellbound as an epic story unfolded before him. For the great traveller, Ibn Battuta had begun to recount by memory his grand tour to the far corners of the Muslim world, the Dar al-Islam and beyond. Starting out in 1325, the 21-year-old son of a wealthy, learned family began his journey with only a donkey, the clothes on his back, a few dirham, and a good singing voice.
So this is a game that describes the journey of Ibn Battuta as he went on his pilgrimage to Mecca. He started out from Tangiers in Morocco in the year 1325, and he's going but he visits other places besides just going straight to Mecca, you know.
Who is he and what did he accomplish?
This is a brave traveler. He sits on top of a donkey. He's 21 years old. He knows that Muslims are, asked to make a pilgrimage to Makkah, Hajj, once in their lifetime. So he has a good singing voice, but he also has wanderlust in his blood. So his purpose is to go to Mecca, but he goes and visits all the places where there was Islamic, rulers and caliphs. So he goes to Granada, he goes to Timbuktu in Mali, Constantinople, Damascus, Cairo, Jerusalem, Baghdad, Shiraz, Aden. He goes all the way to India and beyond to China, Maldives.
So through this man, children or anyone else who visit can understand more about the Arab world at that time.
Besides the Arab world, they can learn geography, right? Interesting tidbits about every place that he visits, what he does there, and so it's teaching you about things, you know, that will stay in your memory forever.
Okay, show us one more lesson that this has to teach.
Okay.
And explain it to us.
So Timbuktu would became. Many people have heard about Timbuktu, that it was rich. There was gold, treasures in Mali, Africa, but it was also a center for Islamic scholarship. Libraries, manuscripts were preserved. So let me press. Timbuktu would become famous as a center for. And there, select where I want to travel to. Let me quickly go through places and show you more as we go further ahead. So Tunis, I'm going to Tunis. Tunis was in the news recently for starting the Arab Spring. Welcome to Tunis, a city of art and learning. It was also a major shipping port of North African goods, wool, leather, cloth, olive oil and grain. I mean, we haven't really heard about these sub-Saharan places, and here through a game, how did Ibn Battuta travel next to Egypt? Let me select in a caravan, and then Constantinople. Let me go to Constantinople. Constantinople at that time when Ibn Battuta visited was a city on the decline, you know. Constantinople is the former name of its modern city, and students in the middle school read about Constantinople. So Istanbul is the new name.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well look, thank you for giving us some idea about what this is and this guided tour of the world at that time. Thank you.
You're welcome. What you're looking at here is Al-Jazari, the master engineer from 13th century Turkey, Diyarbakir. His elephant clock, and this is unique. It was based on it was based on water. This clock combines the various cultures that were under the Islamic civilization at that time. So at the top you'll see a phoenix that turns every half an hour, and then you see a bunch of holes on the top, which every hour one hole sort of lets in light. At that time there would be sunlight peeking through the hole, so you'd know if it was like 2, then 2 holes would be open at the top. And then once the phoenix turns, the Chinese dragons drop a ball into the receptacle. The scribe sitting on top of the elephant turns to indicate the minutes that have passed after the hour, and the mahout beats out a rhythm. And what you notice here, what is so unique about this clock, is it combines the cultures in such ingenious ways and pretty ways. So the phoenix is Egyptian, the scribe also is Egyptian, the dragons or the serpents are from China, the carpet is Persian, the elephant is Indian, the architecture is Arabian.
When would this have been made?
So early 13th century in Diyarbakir. But Al-Jazari, he was really clever with engineering devices, invented the crankshaft, and another of his inventions, the castle clock, was brilliant and spectacular to look at. Majestic and brilliance and utilitarian at the same time. So this is a magic flask. It is so somebody had a sense of humor. It was meant to amuse the public, especially children. So the red liquid goes into one side of the flask, and the green is going into the other. But when you tilt it to one side, you'll see what happens. So now the red liquid is coming from the other side, and a different colored liquid comes from the other side. And there's a mechanism to it. So they are going into internal pipes with the liquids, but there's a cutout in the back. You can see how it's being done. So this is a wuzu pot. It dispenses a certain amount of water. Muslims are required to wash their hands and feet and behind the ear before prayers, and this dispenses a certain amount of water. Remember that water is a scarce commodity, and then it shuts off on its own. So brilliant automated thing made way back then.
Could you turn it on again so I could see the water?
Yes. Okay, here we are looking at Al-Jazari's machines, and this is the crankshaft. All these were, he wrote about these, gave detailed instructions in his book of ingenious mechanical devices. Al-Jazari was again the 13th century master engineer from Turkey, Diyarbakir. So this is the crankshaft. Okay. This motion is better, rotatory motion into linear motion. And let's move. This is a combination log box. Let me show you here, rack and pinion cam, and gear is engaging with the rack. We've had circular gear moves over the upper and lower racks, and the horizontal slider arm was back and forth. So good for pounding. I'll show you this. This is another thing, a sinusoidal motion. This is the Scotch yoke. The horizontal slider arm moves back and forth in a linear motion as the circle rotates. So again, the main purpose motive here was to make devices more efficient, reduce the effort on the animal or the human being operating it. And here, as we move on, this is the door that can be locked, and see how neat this mechanism is. So see how things operate. Okay. And this is the camshaft with rockers. The cams on the camshaft move the rocker arms up and down at different rates and frequencies. This mechanism is used in many modern engines. So who would have thought that such devices? Again, these were water raising machines, simple machines, but they were doing a very valuable thing, raising water from the ground.
About what time were these invented?
Early 13th century. So this is the celestial globe. So if you can imagine the Earth in the center of this, and all the constellations that are drawn on it, and it shows the movement of these constellations. If you've ever camped outside, and it shows the equator and the path of the sun is drawn on it, and it's marked with the hours.
Okay, and what's inside this structure here?
So inside you'll see devices like the quadrant, inside, and the astrolabe. This is the astrolabe, and Muslims are supposed to pray at certain times of the day. That's called Salah, and to determine the time of the day accurately, these astrolabes were made into universal astrolabe where they could tell time wherever they wanted to, wherever they were. And so you focus on a star, notice the degree at which this line is, and then in the back, I'll show you. In the back there is the months and the dates, and on top the plate shows the hours. And so once you have fixed that degree, you note that, and there are positions for various stars on the side, and you make sure that the degree is same, and then you can note down the date and the time according to the position of the star. So if you were on the water or desert sand, valuable devices for telling time.
Okay, and what else?
Here's the quadrant. So you could measure the height of the heavenly body, be it sun or moon, using this quadrant. So you note down, take a reading of the horizon line, and then you take a reading of the point of the heavenly body, say it's the moon here, and then you can calculate the altitude based on the difference in angle. And from that, there were tables that you could read, and you could tell what the altitude was, and based on that you could tell time. Okay, this is Abbas ibn Firnas. Well, he used to study the flapping of the wings by birds. He used to study birds as they would fly. So this is supposed to show how they flap their wing in a figure of 8. Give you a sensation like you're flying like a bird as you're looking down. And you see Abbas ibn Firnas over there in his glider made of wood, silk, and feathers. Abbas ibn Firnas, he is this scholar from Cordoba, and in 875, the year 875, he flew in this contraption that he had made. He jumped off of a cliff in Cordoba and flew for some time, crash landed but survived, and went on to learn and build other things. Remember, Wright brothers did it in 1903, and this guy, Abbas ibn Firnas, his name should be known to everybody.
What is this?
This is again Al-Jazari, the master engineer from Turkey. His one scoop machine, again for raising water and putting it in a channel for irrigation or drinking purposes. So you can imagine that there would be a lake or a river, and then there is a donkey operating this, going so gears engaging, and then you know, the water is coming into the ladle and then moving into this channel. So the horizontal gear turned by the animal interacts with the slider crank, and the slider crank lifts and lowers the scoop into the water. The water then flows down a groove in the lever into a channel. So simple, and again the main thing here he was after was to reduce the effort on the part of the animal or the person who was operating it. So this is Taqi al-Din's 6-cylinder pump, and attached to camshafts are cams. You can see the cams, and they pull the connecting rods connected to the pistons upwards in the cylinder. The pistons suck water and out of the river through a valve and pour it into an irrigation channel. So again, it's a water raising device, and the pistons shown again, because of the lead weight on the piston, they fall on their own weight, and these are now being used in internal combustion engines. So who would have thought that water raising devices made by Al-Jazari, this is Taqi al-Din, way back then would be used now in cars and such. We are looking at a panel which talks about Ibn al-Haytham, and I think every child, every adult, everybody should know about this guy, this scientist, brilliant scientist, because he is the father of optics. Before him, there was this conception that the way we see things is that light comes out of our eyes as feelers, and it touches upon objects and comes back and tells us what we are seeing. He said no. First he said light travels in a straight line, and then he said that light reflected off of objects forms an inverted image at the back of our eye. The optic nerve and the brain makes sense of it. So he's from Cairo, and between 965 and 1039, sometime between then, he figured out all this. He was also the first person to build the very first pinhole camera, or the very first camera. Later on, with the introduction of lenses and all, once Europe woke up to Renaissance, these camera obscuras were used by Impressionist painters like Vermeer to make fine details in their Impressionist paintings. So Ibn al-Haytham is the name to know. Had he been alive in the time of Nobel Prizes, he would have been given the Nobel Prize on Physics for this work.